We often think intelligence is about having the fastest answer in the room. But psychology suggests that sounding smart has less to do with what you say. 1. The strategic pause. Cognitive psychology calls this the halo effect. When you pause, people assume your silence is filled with complex thought. It signals that you are processing information deeply rather than just reacting. Imagine you are in a high-stakes meeting and someone asks a tough question. Instead of rushing to fill the silence, you wait 3 full seconds. You maintain eye contact and hold the space before giving your answer. This simple delay makes your eventual response carry much more weight. You are perceived as more authoritative and less likely to be interrupted. People stop dismissing your ideas because they feel you have vetted them. You often feel the urge to apologize for a moment of silence. Try to notice how that silence actually makes others lean in closer. Mastering the pause is your first step toward shifting your social perception. However, intelligence is not just about how you handle the silence. You have likely noticed how the loudest person in a room often seems the least informed. 2. Asking clarifying questions. Psychology shows that truly intelligent people prioritize understanding over looking smart. Cognitive psychology calls this habit elaborative interrogation. It is the practice of asking why or how things work instead of just memorizing facts. When you ask a question, you shift from being a performer to being an evaluator. This position suggests you have a high level of critical thinking skills. Imagine you are in a meeting discussing a complex new project strategy. Instead of nodding along to jargon, you ask how a specific factor changes the result. You are not trying to prove you know the answer right away. You are forcing the other person to explain their own logic more deeply. As a result, people assume you already grasp the fundamental concepts. They believe you are looking for nuances that others might have missed. Even if you are just learning the basics, you project an aura of mastery. Think back to the last time you felt lost in a conversation. Did you stay silent to hide it, or did you ask for clarity? Choosing to ask questions shows you are not afraid of being found out. That comfort with the unknown is exactly what people interpret as high intelligence. It turns your curiosity into a powerful tool for building social authority. But looking smart also means knowing exactly when to admit your own limits. Faking knowledge feels like a safe shield in the moment. In reality, it creates a hidden tax on your long-term reputation. 3. Admitting what you do not know. Psychology shows that people with low confidence often feel forced to pretend they believe they must have all the answers to stay relevant. They worry that saying, "I don't know," will make them look small. However, cognitive psychology calls this self-awareness, intellectual humility. True experts are comfortable with the edges of their own information. They don't tie their personal ego to being right every time. Imagine you are in a high-stakes meeting at work. Someone mentions a complex study you have never heard of before. Instead of nodding along vaguely, you stop and ask for the takeaway. You ask how that specific data actually applies to the current project. This move immediately shifts the power dynamic in the room. It shows you aren't afraid of looking uninformed for a moment. You build a reputation for being a totally reliable source of truth. When you do speak with certainty, people believe you without question. Think about the last time you pretended to understand just to fit in. You likely felt a lingering anxiety about being found out. By embracing the unknown, you replace that stress with real authority. Truly smart people focus on finding the right questions, not just answers. However, honesty is only one part of the social equation. The way you physically deliver your message matters just as much. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most respected. 4. Lowering your speaking volume. Intelligence is deeply associated with calm and steady emotional regulation. This is your ability to manage your reaction during periods of high stress. When you speak quietly, you subconsciously signal that you are in total control. It forces those around you to lean in and listen more closely. This creates the impression that your words are valuable enough to work for. Imagine you are in a heated debate where everyone is shouting. Instead of raising your voice, you keep your tone low, and even you wait for a gap and speak with a quiet, deliberate pace. Suddenly, you become the most powerful person in the room. The contrast between your stillness and their agitation is striking. People naturally assume that the person who remains calm is the smartest. It suggests you have already processed the situation, while others are just reacting. You might feel like you need to yell just to be heard. But notice how you feel when someone speaks to you in a whisper. You stop what you are doing and give them your full attention. By mastering your volume, you master the energy of any conversation. Try speaking 10% quieter during your next high-stakes meeting. Volume controls the room, but your next habit will control the information. The smartest person in the room often stays quiet for a long time. They aren't just being shy or avoiding the conversation. Instead, they are actively listening to every single detail being shared. 5. Summarizing the room. In any complex discussion, ideas eventually become a tangled mess. Psychology calls the solution to this chaos information synthesis. This is the rare ability to filter out noise. You focus on finding the core message hidden underneath. It requires taking disconnected threads and weaving them together. While others get stuck in the weeds, you zoom out. You are scanning the conversation for what actually matters. Imagine a chaotic project meeting about budgets and deadlines. People are arguing, and the main point is getting lost. You wait for a natural pause before you speak. You calmly say, "It sounds like we are choosing between speed and quality." Then you ask if that is the heart of the issue. This summary acts as a massive cognitive shortcut for the group. You've done the heavy lifting of processing the chaos for them. This signals that your brain has already mastered the information. People naturally trust the person who explains things simply. You quickly become the anchor that provides the group stability. Think about a time you felt lost in a rambling conversation. If you had cleared the fog, you would have earned respect. Try listening for the pattern instead of waiting to speak. When you define the problem, the group looks to you for solutions. Summarizing is a power move, but your vocabulary also matters. You might think grand. Academic words make you sound like a seasoned expert. In reality, we often use linguistic complexity to hide our own gaps. 6. Use concrete language to communicate your ideas as clearly as possible. Jargon might feel impressive when you are the one doing the speaking. It creates a massive mental wall for your listeners to climb. Psychology refers to this mental processing speed as cognitive fluency. This is the measure of how easily the brain digests new information. When a message is easy to understand, our brains feel safe. We unconsciously attribute that feeling of ease to the speaker's intelligence. Simple language signals that you have achieved true mastery of a topic. Research suggests that unnecessary complexity makes you seem much less competent. If a listener has to work to decode you, they lose interest. They might even start to doubt the validity of your entire message. Instead of saying optimizing synergies, try saying working better together. Replace the heavy word utilize with the simple, direct word use. These concrete choices ensure that your ideas can actually spread. People are far more likely to remember thoughts they can visualize. This habit transforms you from a confusing talker into a clear leader. Think about the last time you used a big word to look smart. You likely sacrificed a real connection just to feel more important. Try stripping away the academic fluff in your very next conversation. Notice how much more authority you have when you are direct. True intelligence is taking a complex idea and making it simple. It isn't a vocabulary test. It is the art of being understood. Looking intelligent is less about words and more about providing clarity. When you speak with simple honesty, you naturally lead the room. Remember that the most powerful insights are often the most accessible. Ultimately, the smartest person is the one who communicates most clearly.